Going beyond the end. I've seen stuff on YouTube lately, other creators talking about this idea of when you try to visualize the end of where you want to be. In other words, when you imagine where you want your your manifestation to take you, where you want to be, after you receive your manifestation, you should go beyond, well beyond the end, right? So, in other words, what does that really mean? I got to thinking about that, and I thought, are there any examples in my life where I did that? And I mean, I know I've done it unconsciously, even before Neville. It's not always easy, maybe, to try to envision beyond the end, because let's face it, a lot of us may not have an idea in reality of what it would be like after we receive our manifestation, right? In other words, people talk about winning the lottery. Well, what would it be like to win the lottery if you've never won the lottery before? How would you imagine that when you really have no concept of it? So I started thinking, could I think of any good example, like in my past, where I did envision the end? Like I said, even unwittingly. And I do have probably more, but there's one glaring example that I came up with, which is basically, and I've talked about it in other videos, when I got my current career job. I was unemployed for, God, it must have been at least 6 months. And I did the whole interview thing, calling around, having disastrous phone interviews, and, being lowballed on salary and stuff like that. And it was just so depressing. And, I kind of just, I was in a position where I could kind of just cease a little bit, because I had set up for myself. My parents were there. We were living with them. So I didn't have to worry about paying rent or anything, thankfully. It wasn't like a panicked situation, which, the whole panic thing could be a big blocker, So, I wasn't really imagining a job interview. You would think most people would imagine a job interview gone well, or being told you got the job, stuff like that. And as a matter of fact, that's not what happened with me. My visualization was done unconsciously, but I believe this is what did it. I've told this story before. We were driving down the road, and I saw, I live in New Jersey, the U.S. state of New Jersey, which is close to New York and New York City. And I had been working prior to this in New York City. And a lot of people who live in New Jersey and work in New York City take mass transit into New York City, either the train or the bus. So I would take a transit bus into New York City, and then from there take the New York City subway down to the part of the city wherever I need to be. So what I imagined was I saw the bus on the route that I would normally be on, that I had been on prior. And I saw it, and I said to my wife, I said, look, there it is. There's the bus. And in my mind, I was imagining being on the bus. Although the memories of being on the bus, see, for me, I had the benefit of already knowing what that felt like, right? So that could be a stickler for some people when they don't have a reference point. But for me, I had a reference point. I was trying to re-manifest working in New York City. In other words, imagine having a job. So I imagined being on the bus again. And for me, it was very realistic, because I had lived that for several years prior anyway. So I had imagined being on the bus and all the little things about it and the different stops along the way and going through the Lincoln Tunnel into New York City and being dropped off at the bus terminal, all of that. So I had imagined that actually really quickly. It just went through my mind. It wasn't like I wasn't purposefully doing this. Like I said, at the time, I didn't even know who Neville Goddard was. But that is what I did. I know what I did because I remember it. That visualizing going beyond the end. I wasn't thinking about a job interview, being offered a job, how the interview was going, that somebody was impressed with me, nothing like that. I was strictly imagining what it would be like to already be re-employed in New York City, which meant taking that transit bus in. And that is what did it. So there are people on here like Joseph Ally and others who talk about going beyond the end, and they are 100% right. You need to go beyond, almost, well beyond the end. Just go beyond it. Don't think about the specifics of the thing, just what would be going on if you already had it. That is what it means to go beyond the end, to visualize beyond the end. Visualize exactly what you would be doing if you already had what you wanted. And that is the key. So do that. Practice doing that. Visualize doing that. And for me, I dropped it. That's the other part of it, is dropping the seed in the ground. Not, I didn't keep thinking about that over and over and over again. I had kind of imagined it. And then, that was it. And before you know it, somebody contacted me and said, hey, you still need work? Yeah, I know a guy. They're looking. Contact this guy. Contacted that guy. Told me where to go. What? Boom. And then the interview came. Of course, I was nervous about it, but it was effortless. Before the end of the day of the interview, I knew I had the job. It was a consulting position, which turned into later a full-time, being hired on as an actual employee. So that's how it worked for me. I had unwittingly gone beyond the end, and that's what happened. That's how I got it. So go beyond the end, and you'll most likely get what you want. Thanks. Please like and subscribe. Watch all my other videos. Watch my playlists. I've got a lot of good stuff. I got hundreds of videos in there. There's a lot of stuff in there. Thank you.